What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 93 of Beards of Tech. Um, Another quarantine edition episode featuring none other than Irvin and Jeff. It's good to hear you this week. I'm happy. I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I
Yeah,
haven't looked at the episode dates, but it's definitely been several months since I've been on the airwaves.
it's been at least, yes, since we've had a sizable number of our people on here. I'm
Yeah,
excited
it's good
though.
to have you back. I could actually check. Let's see. When's the last time Jeff was on? October 17th, which was the last episode we've done in a long time.
Yeah,
It was the last time you joined.
At least I was there for the last episode before the impromptu break.
yeah,
The impromptu break, yeah.
the penultimate break. But okay. So also we have a nice benefit because we can check Liza off the list. She's officially on
Oh,
the
yeah, we
episode.
can check. She's part of the episode as well.
Yeah.
Um,
So she won't be barking as much, but she's there in spirit. Um, but yeah, we have a little bit to talk about. I know there was a couple of things that me and Irvin didn't get a chance to talk about last week that I know are very important and at the forefront of his mind at least. And I know Jeff has some very strong opinions about that. Um, but it's contact tracing. Um, and a lot of people have been looking into ways of tracking people who have COVID 19 and trying to figure out the best ways to reintegrate back into society. But I don't know if Irvin, if you want to give like a brief overview into what contact tracing is at the high level, or and maybe like start that discussion.
yeah, so this is one couple. This contact tracing has been brought up by a lot of different health organizations like CDC and WHO to sort of facilitate helping certain regions of the world get back to somewhat normal. So their argument is this would help integrate, bring everyone so that they can actually go outside again and participate in group activities or things like that. But main thing, this contract tracing, hasn't been really talked about before, but it has been really mentioned a lot
We could have
in
used
different.
contact tracing yesterday because we were out at Lowe's because we had to get some stuff for our garden that we're setting up, and there was so many people. Like the parking lot at that Lowe's was full, and it was
I,
actual insanity. Like if I get
I
COVID
was
19, it's because of yesterday.
I was at a park yesterday and it was packed because it was also beautiful out yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was packed as well. So just to go back a little bit, what is contact tracing? So the idea of contact tracing is that to have an idea, because right now when you go out to do your grocery shopping, or go to Lowe's, for example, like Matt, you have no idea if you have been near someone who has tested positive for COVID, and the contact tracing is meant to help with that,
Hmm.
so that you can use technology like your phone that you're always carrying around to say, hey, have you spent enough time with someone, around someone who has tested positive recently for COVID-19. It's been quite controversial because of its privacy implications. Obviously, because people don't want to be tracked on where they are, and they certainly don't want certain governments to know, their
Hmm.
locations and have that data as well. So uh,
Not to
there was
mention,
there's a
like, whenever this whole thing is over, what happens to that data? Is it deleted? Does it
yeah,
stick around? Stuff like that.
yeah. Yeah, and it's been put into place in one of the bigger ones is South Korea, where it's helped greatly in terms of reducing the amount of infections. But that type of tracing that was implemented in South Korea was, uh, I think, less privacy focused, and
Hmm.
it really did. actually track people, they used all kinds of measures like uh, even detecting if you went off your um, local Wi-Fi, and you would immediately get a text message on your phone if you spent too long of a time on LTE where you
Mhm.
weren't staying in home. Like that's going a little bit too far, because that's really locking people in their house, and actually have like police and law enforcement show up at your place if you aren't connected to your local Wi-Fi. Like
Yeah.
that's a little bit too much. That's going too overboard.
Mhm.
So there's been a joint effort put together by Google and Apple to come up with an ecosystem that works cross platform, because this doesn't really work if it's, Apple has their own system and Google has their own system. It sort of has to all work together regardless of what type of phone that you
Yeah.
use out there. So the main idea of contact tracing is um, using your phone as a way to detect if you've been near someone who has tested positive recently for um, COVID-19. One of the main points about this joint effort by Google and Apple is they want to really focus on privacy. So if you don't, this is all opt-in by default, which is good.
Mhm.
So if you don't want to participate, you don't have to. But the idea is, and they'll be encouraging people to participate. The idea is the more people that participate, the 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 better the data is, right? The better that sort of we can improve and actually know who contacts who and who's been around who, and how this sort of disease or virus
Right.
spreads.
So
Um,
I have a question if I can jump in.
yeah,
No, you're not
Was
allowed.
it was it was it opt-in in South Korea? Do you know that?
no, it was not opt-in in South Korea because they did their own system.
Okay, so
It was,
was that also done by mobile device like personal electronics?
yeah.
Okay, and the question I have with the 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 apps, I guess, or the feature rolling out for Google and Apple, um, do they intermingle the Google and Apple data sets, or is it okay? So does that, you're nodding your head yes for people who can't
Yeah.
see.
Yes, sorry.
Does that imply that that data is then routed to federal agencies and or local authorities, or is it Google and Apple who holds on to that data and does something with it?
Yeah, so Um, there is certainly data that's housed both on Google and Apple's end to sort of help facilitate, like to track who's been in contact with what. But all that data is anonymized, so all that's being sent to Google and Apple, according to their documentation, I'm sure it'll be vetted by security agencies, third parties, specifically, is just an ID, a randomized ID that gets assigned to your device, and that's also refreshed every so often. So it's not the same ID that will be within the database. So it's all, so even if you got a hold of someone's ID, it'll only be valid for a little bit of time before it's refreshed. I'm pretty sure it's actually daily that it gets refreshed,
Okay.
that ID that you individually track, and it's all locally on the phone. Um, but sort of that the central data, there's no like one central database where you can see um uh who's been in contact with who. At
Hmm.
least individual people you can see in the IDs that have been in contact with other IDs,
So
but you can't tie that back to the person. That's the idea, at least.
okay.
But I'm waiting on other people to actually vet this and give their opinion on the exact technology.
So for Google, do we know if this is built into the OS or is it going to be like a separate app installation or
Yeah, so it's part of the. That's a good question because,
because
as you
Android
may
isn't
know, there's a
exactly.
lot of Android updates, and releasing those is quite an issue. And it's not like it's like Apple; they can release an update and it'll be available on, phones going back 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually will be part of a Google Play Services update, and it'll actually go back to quite a long time in terms of Android versions.
Okay.
Um, yeah, because it's going through the Google's Play Services update, which comes through the Play Store.
Let me guess, like Kit Kat or
Um,
Lollipop. is where it goes back to.
I'm checking. I'm gonna look it up now. But it actually, yeah, it goes back fairly far.
Also, I find it funny when describing Apple's software longevity that we can now say from SE to SE, from SE to Shining SE.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll be here all
So
week.
and this is also coming out in phases. So right now, the initial versions that'll be rolling out starting this month, the Apple version is already in beta, and I think there's a Google version's already in beta. Is basically an API
Okay.
that's being released so that other app developers can build in this contact tracing. So it's not built into the OS level yet. That's
Mm-hmm.
phase two.
Okay.
That's going to be built into the core of the OS, or you don't need where you won't need another app to actually use this.
Okay.
The idea is right now is have this API where typically in other countries, you would have like, and actually Australia is working on this. Australia would have their contact tracing app, so everyone in Australia is encouraged to download their app that's using Google's and Apple's API,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would have that app where you could say, yes, I want to opt in, and say, I want to receive notifications every time I'm near someone that has been tested positive for COVID-19. And then the other part of that is someone who has had, the important part of that is if someone has tested positive for COVID-19, it's optional for them to provide that information, right? They're not forced just because they've been tested
Yeah.
to automatically notify everyone near them.
They're not like logged by
they're-
their hospital or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
But they're it's not tied to your hospital records
Yeah.
or medical records, anything like that. But you're encouraged to provide that so that you can notify people
Okay.
in case that they've been in contact with
Okay.
you.
And I have
Other-
one more question. Not to quiz you on your knowledge. about
No,
this.
it's yeah.
But
I was just gonna chime in really quick and say, if you don't volunteer the information that you have it, then what's the point?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's sort of the idea, is that this is the way that they're trying to sell it. Is this will benefit everyone overall. But again, on the other side of things, I'm happy to talk about the privacy
Yeah.
implications of that.
So
Matt,
since
I'd like to hear your other question, but then I have some privacy concerns. So
okay, so like I said, not to quiz you on this at all, but and this might get a little more technical for people, but like since Google is approaching it from the API perspective first and going through app developers, say for example, I download Facebook or something, and Facebook has that API built in, and I opt in through Facebook, and then I download another app that's also using that API, and I opt out on Facebook. Does that opt me out of both of the apps? Or am I going to have to go into each individual app developer and opt out? Because you said your app developers can build this into their apps. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
I
is
assume it'd be on a per
does the
app
API
basis.
itself? Yeah. Like,
And,
does Google
So I
store
think
your opt-in status?
so. Right now, I think it's actually restricted to Facebook can't use this API.
Okay, good. First off, that's
So
a good thing.
it's restricted to official apps released by public health organizations,
Okay, good.
like let's say the CDC, WHO, or let's say the PA local government. Would create their own app for everyone in Pennsylvania, because United States operates differently.
Yeah.
Individual states can do whatever they want, kind of, and they're in charge of their own kind of the jurisdiction. Theoretically, the United States overall the U.S. government can launch an app of their own, but it's the API is limited to public health authorities,
And I'm assuming
both
that
on
if you
iOS and Google. So
Yeah.
Facebook doesn't have access to the API, and I don't want Facebook access.
Right.
To this API.
So that I guess that answers another question I had, but the primary thing being that I'm assuming the opt-in and out status is centralized and not per app. So if you opt in
Yes.
to contact tracing on Google and then you opt out later, you don't have to go into all the apps that you have if you downloaded multiple health apps and opt out of all of them. It's just one
Yeah,
opt
it's
out.
because it's
Okay.
using one central API. It's all
Yeah.
using the same backend. It's just whatever front end in the initial phase, right? The second
Right.
phase,
Yeah.
it'll be built into where you can just go into your settings and you can opt in once,
Okay.
and then you don't have to download any other application at all. It'll be built in.
Which I think
Yeah,
that's how Apple's approaching it.
I think I
No, they're
misunderstood your
both
question
they're
initially, Matt.
both they're both doing the API in the initial rollout because
Okay.
it takes a long more time to build this into the core of the operating system.
Okay, I'm done. Jeff,
Right.
you can ask. Sorry.
I thought I misunderstood your question initially, Matt. That all makes sense to me, though, Irvin. So one thing I wanted to kind of, I don't know if it's like a debunk or what, but people who are kind of concerned about privacy, like, oh, I don't want them knowing where I am. I think unless you really know what you're doing, that ship has sailed as soon as you got a cell phone. Just to
Yeah.
put that out there,
Yeah,
because
and also that's
I
a
mean-
good point. Well, as soon as you have a cell phone, there's a lot of ways that your cell provider knows where you are because it knows exactly what cell towers you're connected to.
Yep.
There's been news in the past where T-Mobile, who I use, and Verizon have been caught selling that data through third parties, location data, because they know without even if they don't have access to your GPS, they know about fairly accurately. They can triangulate you based on cell towers where you are. But one important thing to note about this contact tracing, it doesn't use GPS at all. So it uses Bluetooth LE, which doesn't have location built into it, and the API doesn't allow access to the GPS data on your phone. So how it works is it works in proximity to you, so that, hey, I personally know that I was at Giant yesterday at 2 p.m. And then I can get a notification at, say, 2:15 p.m. So I was near someone, and then I can say, okay, I was at Giant at 2:15 yesterday. So I can say, okay, at Giant, I was I was near someone who was COVID positive.
Okay.
Right.
So
makes sense.
You were the one actually keeping track of your location, not the app itself, because the API doesn't know your physical location. It's all about just your surroundings,
Yeah.
whatever
but-
the range of Bluetooth LE is.
I mean, if you pair that Bluetooth contact with location data that already exists for both devices, you essentially get that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not as straightforward. It's not right in that collection, I guess. It takes a little extra legwork, but
Yeah.
it's there.
And all it takes is
Also-
a company masquerading as a health company to make that jump.
Anything can happen with that. I think the data, there's, I don't know how safe it is at all, but I mean,
I just assume
That's-
it's not.
that's the nature of the beast, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's the nature of a beast with your smart personal electronics in general, like I was saying before. Another question I had was about the accuracy of the distance with this, because the range of Bluetooth 5 LE is 400 meters. So, I mean, the 6 foot kind of social distancing norm that we're given now is 2 meters essentially. So is it accurate to that where, I mean, it's going to know, I assume it is, like, hey, Jeff, you're within 6 feet of Irvin, so there's an issue?
Yep.
Or is it going to be like, does it have that sensitivity to know that?
Yeah, like you were near
Yeah.
somebody as opposed to you were in the same parking lot as them.
Right.
Yeah. So Bluetooth LE is quite accurate in terms of determining distance.
Mhm.
It's not, down to centimeters or inches, but
Enough.
it can, a 6 feet sort of distance. It can just guess if it's a range between 6 or whatever in that
Right.
range. 6
I
Also, I
assume
don't
there's
know-
wiggle room, right? So like it could be like 10 feet, but if it's within 10, they're like, maybe that's 6, so let's report that.
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of a margin of error there. But also, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm within 25 feet of someone who tested positive for COVID-19, I would like to know. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Also, maybe
Um,
there's going to be some like weird dating app that springs out of this, like COVID Mingle or something, where you can like
That-
go and
I feel like that already exists. Or
go like
something.
meet up. It's like, hey, there's COVID singles in your area.
You can only sign up if you have the antibodies, or is that it?
It'll only let you register if your API
Oof.
has a positive COVID result on it at any time.
That's like a
God.
weird kind of like borderline eugenics dating app. Kind of
Oh.
weird.
It's like, yeah, I only
I don't
date
like
people
this,
with
man.
COVID antibodies.
Yeah. Like, all right, get off the dating app. Get off.
Yeah.
All right. I guess one of my other comments. I mean, if it's truly anonymized, like you're saying, Irvin, then the third party sale of data, if that anonymization is persistent, like after the fact, it's still anonymized, then whatever kind of I mean, it gives you a little bit of traceability into like who or how people interact as opposed to like who is interacting, which is still something to be bought for sure, but it's not as crazy invasive as personalized data being sold in that way. But the other question I had was like the first thing you mentioned going into this was that this would help group activities resume, which I can kind of see how, but also kind of can't. Because I could see how it could tell you, yeah, you were near someone who had contracted COVID and reported it in this API or this app, whatever. But I don't know how that's going to allow us to go out in public more. I feel like the risk is still there. You just can identify whether or not you are exposed more accurately than you could right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't really know. You just go out shopping and you have no idea. You could be, talking to someone or.
I get how it helps reduce the spread, because if you identify that you've come up positive, you report it, other people are notified. Hopefully their reaction is, okay, I should stay indoors and isolate myself as well, just in case. Yeah. Whether or not people do that, it's a different story too. But I mean, I also see the intent.
This is going to take like a massive ad campaign to get people to do this, because like as a society, I feel like we have a hard enough time just vaccinating people. So like getting people to enroll into this opt-in list, I feel like it's going to be almost a negligible effect unless there's some kind of a massive ad campaign that gets people to do this.
Just get Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon to say you should do it, and then everyone will.
Yeah, fair, actually.
True. I mean, or you could just put it up, on, because all these news conferences, I think a lot more people are watching them because they're just curious about any new information about their local authorities, or if the president is giving their daily sort of updates on what's going on. I think, even if, let's say, 25% of the country does this, do you think that'll be beneficial? Or do you think we need more participation?
I think there might be some benefit, but I feel like the benefits won't be seen until after the fact, when we're just trying to mitigate future outbreaks of this. So that way, like, people can know on a real-time basis, like, hey, I'm near somebody who's tested positive for COVID. But also, I'm worried about the implications of having this label attached to you wherever you go and having people get notified that, hey, you're COVID positive, or you have.
But you don't know who it is.
Yeah.
You just know someone.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you're wearing, the A shirt, or like whatever. What's that thing called?
Oh, yeah.
The Dr. Seuss.
The Scarlet Letter or Scarlet A or whatever thing. You're like saying publicly, like, "Hey, I'm COVID now."
But this is like your something. But this is like your digital Scarlet Letter in a way, where like if say for example you're in like a grocery store, and grocery stores aren't that busy at night, but like you're in there and you're buying something or you're checking out, and you're the only one in the area, and the cashier gets a notification that you're COVID positive, like you're gonna get treated differently.
But it's not real time like that, right?
Yeah. Okay.
It's
it's after the fact, like reactive, I would assume. But I don't know what the time stamp is on that, or if there are any repercussions if like sorry to keep using it as an example, guys, because you're the ones I'm looking at, but like Matt is COVID positive, and we just figured out that this guy who reported he is positive is out doing something and is near other people. Like, is there a repercussion for that? Are you going to be penalized for that?
Right, yeah.
And also the other question, kind of not even as, I guess that's kind of direct, right? Like if you were positive and you're out in the grocery store, like doing taste tests of samples, that's one thing. Another thing is, what if we just find out that Matt's out every 4 hours when we're supposed to be social distancing and staying inside?
Right.
Is he going to get in trouble for that? Does that anonymization go away if you're doing something wrong? That's the kind of questions I have.
And also, who's to stop someone from trying, like you said, Jeff, like trying to enforce this? Like, you go outside, you tested positive, something picks up that you were out and about or whatever, and whoever has that API just decides to send the authorities to you and be like, hey, go inside. and then like it's not a far leap from being in a police state,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. I mean, the idea is, right, if you are tested positive, you should stay home. That's the direction. But I'm assuming people are going to be people. Some people are not going to follow those rules and those restrictions are going to be out. But I think the main idea of this app is, let's say, because we know that there's an incubation period where you're still infected, but you don't have any symptoms.
Yeah.
So let's say Matt and I, we're going to ignore the rules. I go over to your house. We hang out.
Yeah.
For an extended period of time. Then I go home. A week later, you start to feel symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
You get tested positive. Then you report it within the app. And then I get a notification saying, hey, you were in contact with someone who at that time could have been
Okay.
contagious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And say, hey, you should probably look out for, you should isolate yourself now too, because you are potentially could be infected as well. If you start seeing symptoms, hey, go to your local healthcare provider, find out if you can get a test. So I think that's the overall idea. It's not like a real-time sort of notification.
Yeah.
Because the problem with this disease, I don't want to talk about medical stuff because none of us are medical experts, but there's a period where, well, first, some people don't ever show any symptoms.
Right.
Some people don't show symptoms for extended period of time before they start, so they can be in contact with people and potentially infect them. So that's what the unique thing about this disease is, or this virus. So I think this sort of helped facilitate with that, even for people who have previously been in contact with someone who hasn't shown symptoms, and then later on started showing symptoms, then they started getting tested positive.
Mm-hmm.
Would help to notify, hey, there's a slight chance that you were in contact with this person while they were asymptomatic, and please now practice caution and while contacting others, because you could be also infected.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's going to be heavy like basically forcing healthcare providers to opt into this, because if you're out at a grocery store and someone had COVID around you and you're someone going to the hospital to treat people, you obviously don't want that person coming into the hospital if they've been potentially exposed. So I wonder if the different facilities and what have you are going to say, if you're going to come in and work, you have to opt into this, because we need to know if you've been around people before you come in here, as opposed to just taking your temperature or whatever else they do.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that could overload servers, because healthcare providers are going to be around people who have COVID all the time when they're in the hospital.
Yeah.
Unless no one's using the app in there who's a patient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as long as there's some degree of control over this and not making it like an immediate notification, and I have hopes that it'll be beneficial, but the skeptic in me is very nervous about mass data collection like that.
And I hope that these two companies, both Google and Apple, are very transparent on how they're doing this, and also that I'm waiting on third-party security researchers to actually vet this fully and actually see exactly.
I would love to see that API as well, just to see.
And they have all published. I mean, both Google and Apple published a joint letter on the exact cryptography specifications, the Bluetooth, and the API framework, and it's both authored together by Google and Apple.
That's where I'm hoping. That's where I'm really even Google and Apple have had security issues before, so I'm really hoping that this is sewn up tightly, because if there's any wiggle room here, this is reading and writing from devices in proximity to each other, so that's like a way for a cyber virus or something of that nature to spread between devices potentially if it's not done right. So that was another concern of mine that I was waiting to say at the right time. Hopefully they're doing this correctly. I assume they are, but you know what they say about assumptions.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting for sure. I'm very curious of how this will work out. Who will, once this gets released, who will actually opt in, and what kind of benefit, if any. We might even not see any benefit. Who knows what this will bring, but it'll be interesting for sure. And it's been a topic that's been brought up, so I thought we would talk about it when I think we had it on the list to talk about last week. We just sort of glanced over it, but I'm
Yeah.
glad kind of we waited till Jeff was on as well to get his perspective.
Hmm.
Sort of switching gears to now something less serious, more lighthearted topics, and talking about um, tech stuff in general. I know that a couple of you guys have gotten new gadgets recently, and wanted to get your perspective. Jeff is showing it on the screen now, although we aren't doing video, but just yet. But wanted to get your first impressions on these gadgets because I know that you, for Matt, for example, you've been on the Apple train for a long while, but you haven't really adopted the
Weirdly enough, not
smartwatch
as long
and
as I had initially thought. It's only been since September of 18.
yeah, I mean, yeah, not as long.
Not as long as
But
yeah.
you didn't jump on the Apple Watch train as well because you adopted both the phone and the AirPods, but you didn't get the last piece of the puzzle um, of
Yeah.
the Apple ecosystem, and you recently adopted it. I see it on your wrist.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, the Series
so
5 Apple Watch.
and Jeff recently acquired the new Google's answer to the AirPods, the Pixel Buds.
Those like just
Uh,
came out too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they just really recently came out, so you get a exclusive Gears of Tech exclusive
Yeah.
first impressions of both. So, yeah, I don't know which one we're gonna start with.
We can
I guess
we can start with the watch first, and
Okay, go
then
ahead.
yeah, just because I feel like there might not be as much to say about it
That's
versus
how I feel.
no, I mean, but I've been using it to. So I've been working out on and off for the better part of like 5-ish years now, and I've tried various fitness tracking apps and wearables and things to sort of aggregate that data and make it beneficial to myself because, as Irvin knows, I'm a giant data nerd, and I decided finally to jump on the Apple Watch bandwagon. It was either this or like a Fitbit, I think. And I wanted, because I've heard so many good things about how this tracks fitness and it has the extra benefits of being an EKG monitor as well as fall detection, and it's just got a lot of quality of life features built in just for Apple products as well. And I've been really enjoying it so far. It's been really nice. I find that I've been at times a bit obsessive in filling my rings, but I feel like that honeymoon phase will wear off as I wear it more. Like last night, I think, or 2 nights ago, I was about 10 calories away from filling in the exercise ring, or I think that's the one that is tracked by calories. And I was running up and down my stairs to fill those last 10 calories,
yeah.
just so I could get that
I-
ring filled in.
But isn't that the goal of the Apple Watch?
It is,
to
yeah.
sort of encourage you to and sort of gamify the whole experience, so you get out more and actually be more active. So
Yeah.
for a lot of people, actually, that honeymoon phase doesn't wear off because it becomes sort of this addicting thing, and a lot of people, and you get actually badges for
Yeah.
continuous. Like let's say for 30 days. You filled in all your rings, you get a badge for it, and it's 100 days. And I've seen people where they get 1,000 days straight
Oh my
of
God.
rings, and you get a badge for that, and you can sort of boost it, like, and you can share between your other Apple Watch friends. Like, look, I just achieved 1,000 days straight of
Yeah, it's like
of
bragging
all
rights.
my rings closed. So it sort of gamifies and gets people more active. That's sort of the goal of it. So a lot of people, it's a good point that you bring up because I also have it, and I've had it for a long time, and that the closing of the ring sort of becomes addictive, and it like kind of encourages you. And
Mhm.
for me, it hasn't really worn off. I also sometimes just completely ignore it. Um, some in certain days because I haven't been haven't been that obsessive about it.
Mhm.
Of capturing or closing my rings, but it does sort of encourage you, and it gives you encouraging messages. It's like, hey, you weren't as active today as you were yesterday. Maybe you should go for a walk. Like it sends those types of messages to you.
Yeah.
I sort of encourage you to, hey,
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, stop being a lazy bum," without saying, "Stop being a lazy bum."
The one thing that bothers me a little bit is the stand tracking that it has
Hmm.
built into it. So
Yeah.
like it's not great because I've noticed that there's been days where like I go for walks with the dog and we walk upwards of 3-ish, maybe like 2.5, 3 miles, and that's sometimes a day. And I sometimes on those days will not hit my stand goal because my hands are not down at my sides. It's because they're up holding a leash or on the phone or doing something else.
It's not even that. So the stand goal is quite different, actually.
Okay.
So it has nothing to do if you go on a walk or not. So
Right.
all it's tracking is if you're sedentary for a long time and saying, "Hey, you should stand up and move around for a little bit."
Yeah.
And it's, I think, mainly geared for, let's say, an office desk job.
Hmm.
So during the week mainly. So let's say you're obviously all three of us have a kind of somewhat semi of a office desk job that we just sit in for a long time, and I enjoy those notifications that I get to say, "Hey, you should stand up now and go for a walk, grab a coffee, and just stand up from your desk," because sometimes you just get into that lull of like just being on the computer and just
Yeah.
typing away and not moving. And it's really good to get that circulation in your legs.
And also, it kind of brings me back to stuff that I know for a fact you and I both took advantage of, Irvin, which was the Pomodoro work technique or something like that,
Yeah,
where you basically like do bursts of 25 minutes of pure focus and then you break for 5 minutes or however long
yeah.
just to like kind of reset your brain. And I feel almost like I'm back in that routine just because
Yeah.
I'm forced to like because there'll be times where if I'm in the middle of programming something and I'm like focused on it, like I'll look at the computer screen and then like look up and then 6 hours have passed just
Yeah.
because I got like into a flow and I'm working on a problem. And it's nice to kind of have a break from that because I've noticed that things I'm normally stuck on after that little walk, I come back and I'm like solving it real quick. So
Hmm.
just that break of focus kind of gives me an opportunity to mentally reset as well as get some actual physical movement in my day. Um, but just to like not to get on a tangent, but just to go back to the watch itself, I'm liking the always on screen that the Series 5 has, and
Oh yeah.
the tech behind that's pretty cool because it's been fairly like the impact on my battery life has been almost minimal, if that. Like I sleep with the watch and then do sleep tracking and all that stuff. Um, but like I can still get through a full day no problem. Sometimes and then some. And I think it's super cool that the watch can dip down to 1 hertz um, to preserve
One
battery.
FPS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1 FPS, or it drops
Yeah.
down from a 60 hertz refresh rate screen to like a 1 refresh rate or something like that. Yeah,
That's how they get the battery life
because
to
who'd have
be
thought that a watch doesn't need to have to run faster than 1 frame per second
right.
in order to
All you
still
need
be a
is
watch?
that
Yeah,
the second hand to move, and that's pretty much it.
that's the minimum. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's been nice. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did in terms of fitness tracking, but it's been hugely beneficial,
Uh,
and I like how they have a
they've
workout.
done it. The implementation of the fitness tracking
Yeah,
on the Apple Watch is really done really
they
well
have a workout for
compared to other
everything.
watch.
They
Hmm?
like they have a workout for everything in the watch.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like even when I'm doing like not to keep saying like closing rings and whatever, but Ring
Hmm.
Fit Adventure on the Switch, the like fitness game that they've had,
Yeah.
um, there's like a section in the watch for starting a workout for fitness gaming. So I'm able to like accurately track those workouts, and like and it's nice having like the heart rate monitored as I go and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm liking it. I don't know. It's the first impression is a resounding I'm happy.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my like initial review of the watch. I've had it for like a week or two now. I think it's just been for like the second half of April. I think since I've had it.
It's definitely I like the product
Yeah,
a lot of good features, and I like the aesthetic, like the way that it works, and it just I don't use it as a smartwatch per se, but I like tracking all that health
I
stuff
do.
mainly. That's the main reason that I use it for.
Yeah.
I've been playing around with expanding it more of like showing my calendar entries and getting notifications directly on my watch, or seeing exactly
Hmm.
just glance at it shortly as like, oh, when's that my next meeting or something like that. That helps with that too, but
Yeah.
it's certainly
The
it's a nice
walkie,
addition to the ecosystem of like if you own all the other Apple products, you sort of extension
Yeah.
of that.
the walkie-talkie feature is
Um,
nice too. My fiance has used that to get a hold of me on a couple of occasions. So it's nice having
we
that,
we
that
should
chime.
we should test that. I haven't actually tried it with anyone.
Yeah,
But it'd be fun. It's like it just randomly walkie-talkie you.
yeah.
Um,
If I'm not responding
also
to my
can be
texts, I'll get a walkie-talkie.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, that's good. So I know you've been like um doing all kinds of others. Like you tried hybrid watches for a while, which are like smart watches, but also they look like
Got it right here. Yeah,
they're regular watches, but they have some smart features and stuff like
hmm
that.
yeah.
Like what made you actually switch now?
So I liked how the hybrid watch had a pedometer and it tracked notifications, and it doesn't have a display. So this is like a great way to go into, say, like movie theaters, or if I want to go to like a nice restaurant, I can wear this instead of an Apple Watch. And
Hmm.
like it has a different aesthetic to it because it doesn't have a display and it's analog.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, like, and also I like how it syncs the internet time. I don't have to like wind it at all. It's kind of nice. But but yeah, like and I've tried a bunch of other smartwatches too, and like my biggest problem was I never utilized all of the features of it, and I felt like I was wasting it.
Hmm.
Like back when I had the LG G Watch and all those other and like the Samsung Watch and all those other smartwatches from Android days, and I felt like I never took advantage of the features, and I think like having the hybrid watch was a nice segue into making a smartwatch part of my daily routine again, or having some kind of feature that I used on the watch. And this kind of led me back into smartwatches because I realized I was missing on some of the fitness tracking, and this hybrid watch is like arguably too nice to just wear to a gym or something. Like I don't want to wear a leather
Hmm.
band watch
Yeah.
to a gym. So it's nice to have something dedicated for fitness tracking and just for tracking like daily activities and stuff like that. And something that I can have for tracking notifications when I'm out doing like yard work or out at the store. And this thing has been hugely beneficial when out at grocery stores because I can do Apple Pay without having to
Mm.
dig my glove hand into my wallet. I can just hit it. I can just use the watch, and then when I get home, just disinfect the watch. And it's been it's been hugely beneficial in that area. So I'm trying to take advantage of as many of the features that it has as possible, just because I now have this super powerful device attached to my wrist. But I'm enjoying it. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
enjoying it a
that's
lot.
cool.
Yeah. But Jeff, I'm definitely curious to hear about your Pixel Buds because I saw those and it looks like Google finally got them right from what we
Yeah.
saw last year or
Um,
last time.
so I bought the first gen Pixel Buds when they
We all
came out.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is actually what initially drove my switch from Apple or iOS to Android because I was psyched about the translation feature that they
Hmm.
were offering.
I
It
was
wasn't
too.
it wasn't everything that I wanted, but it was something. But I wound up loving Android, and I've gone from a Pixel 2 XL to Pixel 4 XL now. It's my I like my phone a lot.
Hmm.
That being said, when these Pixel Buds were first advertised, I joined a wait list. But what I didn't realize is there's a wait list for each different color of the Pixel Buds.
Interesting.
So I put myself on the wait list for the four colors they have. They have clearly white, they have Oso orange, quite mint, and almost black, which you might be familiar with if you've been following Pixel products in general.
Hmm.
Um,
They've always
but I,
been fun with their colors.
I was on the wait list for almost black, and those are not available. So when I saw that people were getting these, I was like, "What's going on? Did they like forget to send me an email or something?" Well, clearly white was available. So instead of waiting longer, I kind of was anxious to get some Bluetooth, nice headphones. So I got the clearly white. I ordered them, and within 4 days, they were on my doorstep, I believe.
Nice.
Um, Google packaging for you guys to see.
Nice.
It's always nice. I love their packaging. It's always such a shame to throw it away when I don't need it anymore.
Yeah. That's why I have a box at my house. It's a box for all of my boxes.
But they're pretty cool. So it came with this case that is getting a lot of recognition. It's a lot nicer in my opinion than what was on the Gen 1. It has like light indicators for your charge amount, kind of like before. It
Nice.
also tells you a couple other things. And there's a pairing button on the back. It's pretty straightforward. You just have the Pixel Buds in the case. You press that button for a second, and when you're next to your device that's Bluetooth enabled, it'll pop up. It's like pairable device. There's a little icon for it in Android at least now. It shows you the battery level on both the right and left Pixel Bud. There's a couple other features in there too. I'll get into them. But this case charges your Pixel Buds. They have about 5 hours of battery life when they're out of
Okay.
the case, and this can keep them charged if you rotate in and out for about 24 hours,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a USB-C cable to charge this. It came with a USB-A to USB-C cable. There's no charging brick included, just the cable
Okay.
itself.
I think that's what
But
the first gen had also, just the cable.
yeah, I believe that's right.
Mhm.
And then there's also these little things you guys are probably familiar with other headphones.
Yeah.
They're like the little plastic pieces. If your ear size is different,
Mhm.
they have smaller ones. They come with medium ones on them, and then there's larger ones.
Right.
So I'm using the medium ones right now. They have the magnetic, so when you put them in the case, they mag charge. They,
Oh no!
It just changed your microphone input, I think, to the Pixel Buds
Once-
when you did that.
Once you
oh
took them
man,
out,
whoops.
yeah, your audio's a little messed up now.
No, but that's
So
cool that
try
it's
to
like.
switch.
But
Is
what?
it
okay, he's
right
good.
now?
Oh, now you're back. Now
He's
you're
back.
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah.
when you took them out, they prior to your computer, because I think the AirPods do the similar thing. Like
Yeah.
when you take them out of the case, immediately pairs to the last known device.
Well, now we know
Wow.
how quick
Which
it
is
pairs,
nice.
which is
Yeah.
nice. Yeah,
Maybe I'll pair it to my phone so that doesn't happen again.
that was a
But,
good little test that we had there, though.
Yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, to kind of go off of that, I guess, it's really easy to pair. You can keep up to 6 different devices in your history for the Pixel Buds. It'll remember. So I have like a laptop, a desktop, 2 different phones right now is what I've paired. And you can kind of like swap them really easily. So for example, if I have them on my computer and then I get a call on my phone, if I go on my phone and go on Bluetooth and pair the Pixel Buds, it'll switch it from my computer to my phone in like a second, and then I can just pick up the phone on
Nice.
them. It's awesome. And yeah, switchback is seamless as well.
How's sound quality on them?
Sound quality. On the computer, it was different. I think that probably has to do with the Bluetooth receiver on my computer more than
Maybe.
the buds themselves. But on the phone, it's awesome. The noise canceling is pretty extraordinary. I've been messing around with AirPods as well. Jess, my wife, got AirPods recently to use for a similar reason, and those are great. But I mean, it's hard to tell the difference. I haven't really spent a ton of time with both to compare and contrast, but I know they both cancel noise very well. The sound quality is very good on both. I haven't really messed with the adaptive sound on Pixel Buds too much yet, but I know when I have these in and someone could be right next to me talking to me, and it's very hard to hear them if I have the sound higher.
Okay.
So it does really well with noise cancellation.
I know
Kinda-
you like audio, like different music, so I'm assuming you've tried different genres of music. Does it like I know they're not audiophile, neither are AirPods, but
Right.
they sound decent enough for $180 headphones.
Yeah, and the most exciting part for me is like I can use these for outdoors activities, or like if I'm working out or something, and they stay in my ear awesome. The old first gen, I had a lot of problems with that. These have these little like soft plastic flags that come off them almost, and you actually rotate them in your ear as it enters like your ear canal, and then these things hold it in place. They're very comfortable. The AirPods have like the little tails that come out, and they're pretty narrow. These are have like a larger radius, but they have no tail.
Yeah, they look super low profile, which is nice.
Yeah, they're really cool in that regard too.
The Jabra and the Samsung ones make you look like Frankenstein with the bolts sticking out.
Yeah, I know, and I love that they're pretty. Yeah, they're very. I think they look cool wearing them too. Phone calls. I haven't done too many phone calls on them to be honest yet, but I haven't had too many issues from what I've seen. They're sweat and water resistant in terms of it won't damage your Pixel Buds if you get them like a little wet or sweaty. so you just clean them off and they're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of an assistant built in, so if you're into that, I don't really care that much. I just kind of yell out the trigger word and I've got something around me when I need it.
Yeah.
But the translation's not too different than what I saw on the first gen. I mean, it's cool that it's Bluetooth and you can hold and ask your assistant to do it for you as opposed to doing it all through the app now. But you still have to go in and like hold the button that you're now talking and then hold the button when someone's talking back to you. Still a crazy, amazing technology to have, but it's not like you just have a conversation out loud and everything's done for you.
Yeah. And I
Um,
had back when I had the original Pixel Buds, I had a couple people who spoke other languages, like non-native speakers, test it, and it did a pretty good job. But it seems like it's always going to be pretty much on par wherever Google Translate is.
mm-hmm.
So, but it's nice having that like right at your fingertip, where if you encounter that, you can just get that translated on the spot.
It's still, yeah, it still relies on having an Android 6 or later device near you to do it. But I mean, it's still cool. I mean, Irvin and I tested it when we had the first gen, and it was pretty good between Hungarian and English, which was cool.
It's pretty good. The user experience wasn't so as
Yeah,
I imagined in my head, but yeah, when you actually got the feature working, yeah, it was pretty, crazy. You can nitpick all this stuff, the translations, but once you actually like just think about what it's actually doing, it's kind of amazing, mind blowing. To imagine, 10, 15 years ago, this was kind of impossible tech to do.
Yeah.
And like the little tiny thing that you just put in your ear and you can hear someone, speak different language and they'll translate for you. It's kind of crazy.
Exactly. And another cool feature added onto this that's on other devices too, but it's Find the Pixel Buds thing. I don't think they have anything through a user interface where it'll like show you their location because they're not that smart, but you can send a signal to them basically from your phone and it'll make them ring pretty loudly.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
if they're like in your couch cushion or something, that's useful.
Yeah, you lost them, which I've been there for my AirPods. It's like I have one, I have no idea where the other one is, and they have a similar feature, and it's been useful to find it.
So I guess, yeah. But a couple last notes, not too many more. I think I've talked about everything I wanted to say. But I guess also there's like touch gestures too and swipe gestures for like changing volume, skipping songs, pausing, etc., etc. You can go back to listen to a song again. That's another gesture. But the last thing, I guess, if it wasn't already made clear through my initial intro, the Clearly White's available. It was I get the price on list on Google's $179, so it's just kind of pricey, but I like them a lot. They're a good set of headphones. The Oso Orange, Quite Mint, and Almost Black, which are like a tangerine color, kind of like a aqua color, and then a little off black.
Yeah.
Those are not currently available, but there's a wait list, and I assume they'll be out in the near future.
I've always liked the pastel-y colors that Google uses for their products. I thought it was nice.
I always went with their kind of fabric case. I thought that it felt really good in my hand. I liked the way it looked too. But
The grip is nice. I had one of them on my Pixel.
I switched to this clear OtterBox for my new phone just because it's a little more protective, and I didn't mind the clear look since I could still see underneath.
I was looking through the tech specs. I didn't realize this also had wireless charging too, so you don't have
Oh
to use
yeah,
the cable.
I didn't mention that. The case is capable of wireless charging. I don't use wireless charging personally. I just don't. I don't know. Jess does, but if I ever get a wireless charging pad, this can sit on it and be charged.
Nice. Yeah, I use wireless charging almost exclusively now, unless I'm driving a car or something. So.
Yeah, I don't mind plugging in usually. My phone battery lasts a pretty good amount of time, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's they I think nailed it. On this one, a pretty good design and good feature set to match sort of what Apple's been doing. It, could be just like another Me Too product, but pick the Android side of things needed something that worked as well. I know Samsung had their Galaxy Buds, I think they're called, that were pretty good and well praised. In terms of their functionality, but now Google got into the game as well. Came up with something that's on par if not better than in those as well. So,
Yeah.
and the price is right. It's not too expensive because I know that a couple of, and I know Sony makes the really in earbud ones that are, I think, $250, which are more of the high end or higher end. But I think dollar price is matches the AirPods obviously, but it fits in the price range that people are willing to pay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some other topics in the show notes, but we could certainly talk about that later. But I know that we had a little bit of hard stop for everyone, me especially. So
And now we just know what to talk about next week.
Yeah, we have more stuff to talk about next week, and it's not like we sort of switched away from the urgent sort of regurgitating of news from the weeks past, and sort of have deeper discussions like we did today about certain topics like contact tracing or just impressions of products that we've been using or adopting. So
it's nice actually having some personal investments in our topics for once.
Yes, and not just reading an article and just saying exactly what it's saying. It's more in depth and actually give our thoughts and opinions on different topics and ideas.
It'll be better for the inevitable slower news weeks when things start to pick back up.
I think I personally think, I mean, we'll see what listeners have to say. We'd love to hear what you have to say, but I assume this is probably more interesting for everyone involved because we're talking about issues that are very current, and we could share news articles and give our thoughts on products, or regurgitate articles, but we could also just share links to those, and that could be how we share those. If there's anything that really sticks out, we could talk about it. But these kind of opinions and things that seem like they matter a lot more, they have more consequence and more social implications, I think maybe that's more newsworthy. But
and also for anybody who's following our Twitch channel, keep your eyes peeled on our Twitter account, because I'm gonna have a couple of ideas for some streams that I want to do, maybe like Tuesdays or something. I don't know. It's whenever I'm doing the least amount of stuff around this house that I'm in. But I have a couple of ideas, and I'll post on our Twitter page what's happening and when, and the whole shtick with that. But I think it would be cool to have some like open forum chats with anybody who wants to just jump into the Twitch stream and like hang out with us for a couple of hours a night. So I think that could be a good way to get in touch with some of you guys. And basically anybody who wants to, just follow us on our Beards of Tech Twitter account, and I'll post about that, and I'll even post the stream there when we go live. So
I've been also more active on the account because I've been putting little snippets of our shows, sort of to promote it on all of our social media, including our Instagram and Twitter. So if you guys are enjoying those, I'll be putting those more every couple of days or so, of little like snippets of the episode, and they have a cool little animation and show the actual text of transcription of what we're saying, so you can actually see, and you'll get a direct link to watch the episode right there. So they're kind of cool too.
Do we have a short URL for Instagram? Sorry to interrupt you, but
I think so. It's in our show notes if there is. Yeah.
Okay, I'll say if we don't, then we can add it. Just it'll be like beardsoftech.com/Instagram.
Yeah,
and that way anybody on mobile can just get straight to our page.
Or you can just search for Beards of Tech and you'll find us on any social platform, because that's our name.
But it's nice having those little short URLs to jump people around and get people to where they need to go. But yeah, so like Irvin said, we are available everywhere. So beardsoftech.com/subscribe, or just go to your favorite podcatcher and just find us there. We're available literally everywhere, I think, as of a little while ago. If you want to check up on our information, you can go to just beardsoftech.com. Beardsoftech.com/reviews will allow you to drop a review. The reviews I've seen a couple from a little while ago, and they're super helpful, and I love reading them and going through them. So anybody who wants to drop us a review, tell us what we're doing right, tell us what we're doing wrong, any ideas you have for upcoming show formats, we'd love to hear from you guys. And I guess that's it, really. There's not much else left on the list. It's nice that we've made this so efficient. Well, then, this has been episode 93 of Beards of Tech. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.